See, how do you know what's propaganda versus what's really just normal behavior? The key is to imitate Jesus. How do we do that? In two ways. Let's open our Bibles to the first way. It's identified in John chapter 8, verse 31 and 32. John 8, verse 31. Then Jesus went on to say to the Jews who had believed him, "If you remain in my word, you are really my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Jesus gave us this simple rule to combat propaganda. Know the truth. Think deeply about Jehovah, just like Jesus did. Remember what our young brother said in the video? He said Jesus wasn't confused or intimidated by religious leaders. He knew the truth, and he wasn't afraid to take a stand for it. Make sure that you know the truth, that you understand what you believe and why you believe it. See, Satan doesn't want you to think like that. He doesn't want you to think clearly and to reason things out. It's because he knows that propaganda is more effective when people don't think critically. Don't be content to just passively accept whatever you hear from your peers. Too many people today are just floating down the stream of public opinion, just allowing it to take them wherever it's going to lead. You can be different. You can choose to push against that current. Use your thinking ability to make the truth your own.
Yes, thinking critically. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses should be doing more of. According to Josiah Naaman from the Warwick Bethel, he's taking us through the symposium item, Imitate Those Who Had Faith in the Good News Jesus. And he's giving his follow-up remarks to the dramatization that we just saw, where these young Jehovah's Witnesses were, I guess, processing the homophobic elements of their beliefs, and one was giving a pep talk to the other on the need to make sure of his faith so that he wouldn't feel intimidated about taking an extremely judgmental, bigoted stand with his bisexual schoolmate, who apparently he was allowed to approach romantically. Still confuses me, that. But yeah, this part of the convention took me completely by surprise, if I'm honest, because I'm not sure this is advice Jehovah's Witnesses ought to be given. To do more thinking, to exercise critical thinking skills. I think that's kind of the opposite of what they need to be doing if they want to stay as Jehovah's Witnesses. I think they need to just listen to what the organization is telling them without asking any questions whatsoever, without scrutinizing their beliefs in any form. If there's any part of this convention where any of the speakers have given me grounds to think, is this maybe a PMO? Is this maybe like a PMO Bethelite who's trying to weave something in just to kind of, help those who are in the audience move towards the light? This is probably the part that I would choose. But seriously, I don't think that's what's happening here. I think that Josiah Naaman is reading from his outline. I think everything that we've heard at this convention has come from the outline. And I think it's just the product of an organization that is absolutely convinced that it must be true. I think the leaders are completely deluded. They genuinely believe that their theology makes sense. And they believe that subjecting it to scrutiny, subjecting the teachings, the policies, everything, the history to scrutiny, will lead people to the conclusion that it's the truth. I suppose in that context, it's worthwhile asking the question, if you're so confident that it's the truth, why aren't you allowing Jehovah's Witness rank and file members to have access to all of their past literature? How come the material on JW Library or Watchtower Online Library only goes as far back as 1950 for the Watchtowers and 1970 for the Awakeson books? How come you're not letting Jehovah's Witnesses read, for example, Millions Now Living Will Never Die, where Rutherford predicted Armageddon to come in 1925? How come you're not letting Jehovah's Witnesses read those materials? How come you're limiting them in what they can use to reach these conclusions that you've decided they are going to reach if they think critically enough? I think all of this is quite shady and disingenuous, to be honest, because the truth of the matter is that Jehovah's Witnesses are shielded from many of the facts regarding the organization's past, facts that would help them reach the conclusion that it's an extremely man-made and flawed organization. So when this guy, Josiah Naaman, is talking about thinking critically, he's doing so knowing full well that most Jehovah's Witnesses don't know the first thing about critical thinking, having been robbed of those skills from an early age. So any kind of investigation, any kind of attempt to reach some kind of certainty regarding their beliefs using only the organization's materials or only a selected date range of the organization's materials is only going to lead them to the conclusions that the organization wants them to reach.